Welcome back. This is episode 15 of the Lotus Sutra, my recital of the Lotus Sutra, that is, on Buddhist books by Edward Reed. That's me. The music is provided, not the music you just heard or the music before that, but the music, the drums you're hearing right now, is provided by local drummers here in east of Kailash, New Delhi. Having some kind of celebration, no doubt. It happens quite often, sometimes at 4 a.m. It's fun, actually. So I'm not going to talk through this whole thing. I'm going to get to the book very soon. By the way, if this is your first time seeing me wearing this, I'm just checking the lighting because it's dark. It's actually raining outside. So that's fun. All right, hopefully that'll be okay. Not as much as it was. There was thunder and lightning before. Hopefully that drums aren't too distracting. Maybe they'll stop in a little while. People hooting and hollering as well. It's about 9 p.m. exactly on the dot, India time, on the 25th of February, 2022, if you were curious. And if this is your first time seeing me, click here, and that's the whole playlist, which includes, so far, my recital of the whole Dhammapada and the first sixth or so of the Lotus Sutra. I recommend starting with episode 1 of the Dhammapada, and that's a good place to start. But if you're definitely here for the Lotus Sutra, you're not interested in Dhammapada right now, maybe you've already read it, or you just aren't into that Theravada stuff. Well, I can't relate, but I guess people like you exist, maybe. You probably won't like this series. Anyway, so go ahead and click here. That's episode 1 of Lotus Sutra. Okay, so yeah, that shot in the beginning was because this is here in the background always. See? The candle underneath the Thangka painting from Kathmandu, in between the Kakejikus, right? Is this table with the drawers. It's like just sort of a regular old filing cabinet with a carpet on top. And it's kind of hard to make out what all is on there from your vantage point. So I thought, since I went to MT yesterday and got some new statues, that I would show off a little bit so you can see what's on top of it. The new things, well, let's see. What you saw, the opening shot was on Mandrava, which I bought from Sal Santoro at the Crooked Path. I think the day that they opened, or maybe before they opened. And she was the first of the 5 students, consorts of Padmasambhava. And they were in Pakistan. They were both from Pakistan. They didn't call it Pakistan back then. It was 1,300 years ago. Pakistan is relatively new. Anyway, there was a whole drama with her dad not approving of her working with him and setting a forest on fire, which they turned into a lake through the power of Tantra. The kind you're thinking of, actually, this time. Let's see, what else? You saw her, and then you saw Avalokitesvara on the left. We mentioned him before. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and bring him over so you can... We were talking about him last time. I think you got to look at how terribly this looks from the back. I really have no idea how to put it on, but I can kind of make it look like intentional a little bit from the front. So this is... Have a look at Avalokitesvara. Right? Kind of a funny wordplay. There we go. So this is from a time when Avalokitesvara was so upset because there's basically, in one telling of a story, and I'm not even sure what sutra this is from. We'll have Avalokitesvara here. The lotus is in the other room today. What can you do? Yeah, that's nice, because we're talking about bodhisattvas. This is the ultimate bodhisattva, Avalokitesvara, also known as Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin doesn't look quite like that, although you might have seen, in fact, you see that? That's someone performing on a stage, looking like. Anyway, so they talk about the 1,000-armed, the Senju Canon I mentioned in the previous episode. So what happened was Avalokitesvara and Vajrapani, and Manjushri were doing their thing. And Manjushri is all about wisdom. And Avalokitesvara is all about compassion. And later on, we'll get to the Diamond Sutra, and not just the sutra itself, but a good interpretation, analysis of Diamond Sutra and kind of the surrounding, things that were going on at the time and the changes in kind of that whole Christian influence and a few other things. It's a good book. We'll get to it. Few things to get through before then. Anyway, so Manjushri is all about wisdom. The wisdom to know that you know nothing. And by that, I don't mean what Bill and Ted were talking about when they met Socrates. I know it's Socrates. That's probably not even pronounced correctly. But anyway, the wisdom of knowing that form is emptiness and emptiness is form, and ultimately all of this is just dust, right? That's wisdom. But wisdom without compassion can lead to sort of a nihilism in the negative sense. Not to mention depression and a lot of other things. So emphasis was made, whether, you could interpret it this way, like, oh, well, that's why they did this. Or you could say, therefore, Avalokitesvara came into the world to teach us all about compassion, or, that part of the Buddhist teaching was more emphasis was given, and the Bodhisattva Mahayana philosophy was developed. So on one hand you have Manjushri, wisdom, and on the other hand you have Avalokitesvara, compassion. And then somewhere on another, end of some spectrum is Vajrapani, which is power, right? So Vajrapani wanted to give his power, his energy, he wanted to give that to all beings. And he did. And all the beings were like, thanks, hoo-wee, And then Manjushri was like, I want to give my wisdom to everybody. And then they all were like, wow, oh, yeah, that's true. And so Avalokitesvara wanted to, in this great compassion. My telling of the story is, I'm sure, terrible. I'm not I haven't read where this comes from. I've only heard it from my friend Sharing Jam Show in Bhutan, and I'm relating it to you in my own words. Anyway, so Avalokitesvara wanted to save all 6 types of beings. You remember I went through them before: gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and those in the hells. Wanted to rescue them all from the great wheel of samsara, with Mara there munching on it, and bring everyone to nirvana. And so Avalokitesvara kept saving souls and saving souls and saving beings and saving, sentient beings, I should say. And but just every time Avalokitesvara turned around and looked at the hell realm, it was full again. These people just kept going back there. People just kept making wrong decisions, and even the ones kind of on their way to nirvana or in the god realm would end up in the hell realm. And so Avalokitesvara just started beating her, depends on who you ask, head against a rock, and just beat himself up, literally, just in despair that he couldn't save the beings. And he ended up breaking himself into many, many, many pieces. Kind of a horrible story, right? The end. Just kidding. So Manjushri and Vajrapani and Lord Buddha is in this story, believe it or not, right? And the original Buddha, Vairocana, anyway, and a lot of other people all got together, and they brought the pieces of Avalokitesvara together, and they added their own energy, right? So here you have the heads of Buddha, Vairocana, and Vajrapani, and Manjushri, and they all came together into this 1,000-armed bodhisattva being, and united together as one being who ultimately was Senju Kannon or Avalokitesvara, having gone through this process. They were able to save all beings. I guess the end of that story hasn't quite happened yet. It's sort of like reading chapter 22 of the Book of Revelation and going, oh, won't that be nice, So that's my horrible hashed up version of that story. Probably it comes from one of the sutras, so we'll get to it probably no time soon, because I'm doing this a half an hour at a time, and as you can see, I often talk for 10 minutes or more of that half an hour. rather than getting to the reading. Was there a point? Yes, I was introducing you. I'll just cut short. So Avalokitesvara, Vajrasattva, another story. We'll get to it in the future. And then Vajrapani is here. You saw he was the one, with the Dorja and everything. And then Green Tara, the 5 Dhyani Buddhas. And then Padmasambhava, he was the one who's like, "Rrr." I hope this isn't disrespectful, but yesterday, Priyal, my wife, and her sister, best friend, Navina, were asking, like, why does his face look like that? And I said, well, he has 5 girlfriends, but he never ejaculates. So anyway, I hope I haven't horrified anybody, but that's why his face looks like that. I mean, that's really why his face looks like that. And then Vimalamitra, he's the big one behind Padmasambhava. They were buddies. They both brought the sutras from India to Tibet, and then Vimalamitra brought the sutras further into China, possibly met up with Kukai there, who then brought it into Japan, and hence we have Shingon. Obviously Padmasambhava is the more famous of the two, which happened a couple hundred years after he came to Tibet. And that's another thing we'll get to. There's a book called Remembering Padmasambhava, or Remembering the Lotus Born, which is about basically the guy, the monk, the scholar monk, whatever, who popularized kind of the worship of Padmasambhava. He didn't come to Tibet and say, here are the Vajrayana Sutras, worship me, by the way, I'm a big deal. That sort of happened later. So like they remembered, hey, remember that guy? Remember he kind of hooked up with the queen back then? That guy was the second Buddha. And people were like, really? What? And so that's what happened there. Then the copper one, I had it polished. That's Vajrayogini, and she looks a lot like Kali, same necklace and similar personality. And then Jambala was the last one we landed on. Yeshi Tsogyal, the Queen of Tibet. What would Yeshi do? It's a podcast. I'll get back to it one day. She's in the back corner, the one that was more colorful. And in front of her was Manjushri, the one with the sword. Kalchakra, which is the god and goddess with the many arms that are in Yabyam, which means, they're doing tantra in the way that you think of it when you first hear the word. A few episodes ago, was that a few episodes ago? No, it was in this episode. How many cards have I used? Well, anyway, in that episode, I explained that Tantra was a movement in which power was taken back from the Brahmin to the people, and basically the idea was that even an untouchable, no matter what caste you are, you can perform the rituals, you can bring it into your home, you can ring a little bell, you can burn the incense, you can pray to the god, you can bless your family, and all this sort of thing. And so that was the thing that kind of merged with one of the branches of Madhyamika Mahayana, which we'll get to later, and gave birth, sort of, to Vajrayana Buddhism. So Tantra started in, what we now term Hinduism, and then it influenced Buddhism kind of simultaneously as it was developing everywhere in India. But then there were the people that stayed focused, Mahayana, Buddhism. And then it had already been exported, so there was already Mahayana in China before Madhyamika Mahayana was evolving into Vajrayana in India. And then the Mughals came, and they were those emperors that were ruling India for hundreds of years before the British, and they burned all the Vajrayana Sutras and kind of ended Buddhism in India. So thank goodness that Padmasambhava and his friends did what they did, which was illegal at the time. They had to sneak out with those sutras. But we probably wouldn't have any knowledge whatsoever, we being the human race, of Vajrayana if he hadn't done that. There would be no Shingon, there would be no what we term Tibetan Buddhism. There would be Tibetan Buddhism, but it would be Mahayana. So that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, okay. You saw my dad's Dorja, I think. All right. I said I wasn't going to talk through this whole thing, But anyway, I just wanted to show you that because it's there in the background and I point to it in various episodes and I say, oh, he's over there. But now you've seen it all up close and you've seen the new ones too. The new ones are Jambala. I hope I'm saying that right. He's the one with the rat that barfs jewels. Sort of a wealth god, you know. Not very Buddhist in the sense of, you know, what people usually think of as Buddhism. But speaking of which, it's been a few days, hasn't it? That's because I was writing a book. I decided about 6 days ago, hey, I'm going to write a book. And then I wrote it and published it, and now it's available on Amazon. It's called Smaller Mouse by Edward Reed. Actually, most of it had already been written. They're short stories that I wrote between 1992 and this year. One was in 1992, one was this year, and the rest of them were in between, mostly around 2003, some 1998, 1997, 96, and a few like the really silly ones were written kind of within the past few years. But they're mixed up and they're out of order, and I recommend it. I mean, it's not off topic, it's sort of Buddhist. Some of it is Buddhist in a sort of abstract kind of like abstractly tantric Buddhist, you know, way. And then some of it is very directly Buddhist. And I actually write about my pilgrimage to Lumbini and kind of how that all went in Smaller Mouse. So Smaller Mouse, if you look up Smaller Mouse on Amazon, you'll see a bunch of pictures of like mouse, you know, like for computers. So that won't work. If you type in Smaller Mouse Reeb, that's R-E-I-B, that's my last name, it'll also show you a bunch of these things and won't show you the book. If you switch it to books, then you'll get there. But if you write Edward Reeb, E-D-W-A-R-D, R-E-I-B, Smaller Mouse, it'll take you right to it. Okay. I said I wouldn't talk through the whole thing. I didn't say I wouldn't talk through 17, 18 minutes of it. Sorry. Okay. So, jumping right in basically where we left off, you remember there were dreadful snakes, most venomous, talking about the old house, my old house, but also the old house of the old man who had many children and faked them out with the, you know, deer vehicle and the goat vehicle, but gave everybody bullock vehicles, and everybody was happy, and it didn't matter that he lied, right? Remember, skillful means? Okay. So, talking about the house. It is the abode of very wicked creatures of every description. Are we talking about sorry, I'm moving slowly because there's shark teeth on top. Every description. These monsters, see the shark teeth? My grandpa collected those. My mom's dad, that is. The scientist. All right. Okay. All right. No more interruptions, Edward. Let's stick to the Lotus Sutra, okay? People came for the Lotus Sutra, not to hear you ramble on. Actually, you're probably here to hear me ramble on by now. Otherwise, you would have given up on this series a long time ago. Unless you decided to start with episode 15 of the Lotus Sutra, in which case you must be really confused. All right. The whole series is like this. Actually, in the beginning of Dhammapada, I was very like, okay, we're going to be reading Buddhist books. And then slowly I just like stopped being that way and started kind of being, I guess, myself kind of hamming it up for the camera, as it were. All right. Scorpions, dreadful snakes, most venom and horrible scorpions, and mice of all sorts. It is the abode of very wicked creatures of every description. We've heard that already. All right, moving along. Further, finally, we're getting somewhere. At 19 minutes, 30 seconds, we're getting somewhere. Further, one may meet in it, here and there, beings not belonging to the human race. Didn't you just say there were snakes and rats? Come on. Are we talking about like something weird? I suppose so. It is defiled with excrement and urine and teeming with worms, insects, and fireflies. It resounds from the howling of dogs and jackals. What sweet music they make. Music! Keanu Reeves, anybody? In it are horrible hyenas that are wont to devour, maybe want want, I think is what they were going for, to devour human carcasses. Many dogs and jackals greedily seeking the matter of corpses. Those animals, weak from perpetual hunger, go about in several places to feed upon the prey, and quarreling fill the spot with their cries. Okay, I read that in a way like it didn't make sense, but it made sense. And quarreling fill the spot with their cries. See, now it makes sense. Such is that most horrible house. I have a feeling Buddhism influenced Gnosticism quite a bit. Have you seen Pariah, the Darkest Light? It's kind of like, I mean, when they get into the philosophy of the weirdo cult people that are killing people, you know, I mean, it's basically like, have I talked about this already? It's like, it's not favorable toward Gnosticism, but they're talking about how the Gnostics believe that this is a horrible world and that they want to get out and that this world was created by a bad God, not the Jehovah that we all know and love, you know. So, yeah, it sounds like Buddha talking about Mara. You know, I will not let you build my house anymore. You know, I will no longer live in this house, this dreadful house, right? I don't know. There's some crossover, I think, with at least some of the things that people refer to as Gnosticism, but not all of them, because there are quite a few. Anyway, all right, moving along. There are also very malign goblins, not like Hoggle. Remember Hoggle? He's a nice goblin. Anyway, who violate human corpses. What do they mean? Okay. In several spots, there are centipedes, huge snakes and vipers. Those animals creep into all corners where they make nests to deposit their brood, which is often devoured by the goblins. Oh, bleh. And when those cruel-minded goblins are satiated with feeding upon the flesh of other creatures, so that their bodies are big, then they commence sharply fighting on the spot. In the wasted retreats are dreadful malign urchins. Urchins, okay. Some of them measuring 1 span. Wow, 1 span. How is that? Does that mean like an arm span or something? Others, 1 cubit or 2 cubits. What's a cubit? I mean, I know they talk about cubits in the Bible, but still. Okay. All nimble in their movements. Why are they talking about cubits here? That's the thing. It's like somebody translated this into Kajev, into like old school biblical English. All right. Mm-hmm. Yep. 1 cubit, 2 cubits, all nimble in their movements. They are in the habit of seizing dogs by the feet, throwing them upside down upon the floor, pinching their necks and using them ill. Maybe we should go back to me talking. There are also live yelling ghosts naked. It says here, there also live yelling ghosts naked, black, wan, tall, and high, who, hungry and in quest of food, are here and there emitting cries of distress. That sentence has no verb. I mean, obviously, emitting cries of distress. There also live are here and there are. Oh, okay. Fair enough. It was like run on noun, and then eventually at the end they got to the predicate. Okay, I'll stop. Those goblins, ghosts, imps, like vultures, are always looking out through the window and loopholes in all directions in search of food. Those goblins, imps, I already said that. Such is that dreadful house, spacious and high, but very infirm, full of holes, frail and dreary. Let's suppose that, remember that's parentheses and parentheses, it is the property of a certain man. Let me guess, is he old, very old, and of many years, and also very old? And that while he is out of doors, the house is reached by a conflagration. Are we going to tell the whole story again, Lord Buddha? I mean, Lotus Sutra, Buddha. So that on a sudden, there I was. On a sudden, it is wrapped in a blazing mass of fire on every side. I don't know, it seems like they just were like, yeah, okay, this part of the story goes here, let's stick it in there, but it's like somebody wrote it and then somebody wrote it a different way, so they shoved them together. Sometimes that happens, actually, where it's like, oh, in the earlier version, this whole story wasn't repeated again a different way with slightly different words. It happens. All right. I think, they have these like horrible taboos about editing and proofreading. He who changes one single word will go straight to the Avicii hells for all eternity and be punctured by a lot of ice, and fire and brimstone. So people are like, I'm not going to edit it. I don't want to proofread it. You proofread it. I don't want to proofread it, please. And that while he is out of doors, the house is reached by, okay, we said that. The beams and rafters, consumed by the fire, the columns and partitions in flame, are crackling most dreadfully, whilst goblins and ghosts are yelling. I'd like to see this in like full Technicolor. I don't know, it just sounds... Has someone already done this? Am I missing out? Comment below if somebody's already done this as a movie. Vultures are driven out by hundreds. Urchins withdraw with parched faces. Are we talking about like street urchins or like sea urchins? I'm confused. I don't know what to visualize. Hundreds, but they have faces apparently. So, and they span one span. Never mind. Hundreds of mischievous birds of prey, beasts of prey, I run. Let me read that again, just because some of these typos are fun. I'll start at the beginning. Vultures are driven out by hundreds. Urchins withdraw with parched faces. Hundreds of mischievous beasts of prey, I run. Scorched on every side, crying and shouting. Is that like a Freudian slip on behalf of the author of the Lotus Sutra, or is that a typo on behalf of the translator? You decide. Okay. Many poor devils, not the rich devils, they're off doing something else. Many poor devils move about, burnt by the fire. Oh, they mean poor as in, while burning, they tear one another with the teeth and bespatter. Ooh, I want to use that word. Oh, next thing I write of any kind, I'm going to find a way to use bespatter each other with their blood. Whew. Nice. Hyenas also perish there in the act of eating one another. Cool. The excrements burn. How long is this going to go on? It's a good thing I didn't just read the sutras during this one. You got a little something other than just descriptions of the most disgusting things that the author of the Lotus Sutra in around 100 or 200 Common Era, 800 years after the Buddha walked the earth, decided to put in here. I think the Buddha might have mentioned once or twice that being in love with an object is like being in love with excrement, and someone was like, yeah, like excrement and splattered blood and goblins screaming and ghosts. There's this one, the jewel in the lotus, is that what it's called? Or the precious garland? One of those. It's like very thin, but there's one part where it talks about if you're having feelings of lust and desire for a woman, just remember that she's just what was it? Something about a soft skin stretched over a turd. It was like, wow. And then it went on, from there. Trying to shake. I guess when these monks, they make them monks when they're 12, and so they're 14, and anytime a female lay person comes in to make offerings, they're like, oh. And so the teacher comes in and says, remember, You're desiring excrement when you desire that beautiful woman. But I'm not desiring. I'm speaking as the teacher monk. So they write it in to the sutras to pass it forward. Keep the wisdom going, right? Problematic wisdom. Ooh, problematic wisdom. Is that too loud? Is it getting too loud? Let me finish a sentence and then we'll wrap up, shall we? And then we'll get back to the excrement and screaming fire in episode 16 and hopefully move on to something a little more pleasant. We don't even need the drums for the outro. We've got plenty of drums going on right here. Yeah. All right. Hyenas. Did we talk about the hyenas? Yes. Hyenas also perish there. In the act of eating one another, the excrements burn, and a loathsome stench spreads in all directions. The centipedes trying to fly are devoured by the urchins. The ghosts with burning hair hover about, equally vexed with hunger and heat. In such a state is that awful house, where thousands of flames are breaking out on every side, but the man who is the master of the house looks on from without. Yeah! Okay, some cool beat poetry happening here, or something. I don't know what that was. I hope that you were amused somewhat by some of that. And thank you, as always, for tuning in for episode 15 of the Lotus Sutra. And until next time, I will close with the prayer that my father taught me when I was very young. To the north and to the south, to the east and to the west, to the spirits of light among us and to the spirits below, we send out our reverent love and compassion. May all beings be happy. May all beings be serene. May all beings be in peace. Until next time.